Thanks so much for being here and joining us for the Business Over Breakfast webinar series. For those of you who haven't been to our series before and aren't familiar with Goizueta, our school is named after Roberto C. Goizueta, the former chairman and CEO of Coca-Cola, who has challenged us not only to teach the way business is, but to teach how business will be. So our guide for this webinar is an alum of Goizueta Business School, and he has been doing just that. David Noor is an educator, consultant, researcher, and author. He was named to the Global Guru's Top 30 Leadership Professionals list and is one of Marshall Goldsmith's 100 Global Coaches. He has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, Fast Company, Huffington Post Business, and Entrepreneur. And so with our goal for today's webinar, as with all of our webinars, is to provide some ideas and information to help us as we navigate through these uncertain and murky times of COVID-19. The economic crisis that we're all experiencing in one way or another. So our hope is that through these webinars and the other learning initiatives we are currently offering, that we as leaders and professionals can better position ourselves and our teams and our businesses to not only survive, but remain viable and to thrive as we emerge into the next normal. So with that, David will kick off the webinar today explaining what Agile alignment is, why it's critical for you and your organizations today. This will be about 30 minutes of kind of insight, as followed by 30 minutes of Q&A. Please know that you can write your questions in the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen at any time, and our team will do their best to get as many questions as possible. At the end of the session, there will be a very short question survey that we would appreciate you filling in, just to give us some of your feedback. Also, as a note, as a follow-up to today's webinar, we will be conducting a strategy visualization course in June, on June 9th and 10th, that is taught by our very own David Noor. And so we hope that you enjoy hearing from him today and that you're inspired to invest in yourself even further from a professional perspective. So enjoy the morning with David. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you next week on our next webinar series, when we will focus on problem solving and teamwork. So over to you, David. Thanks so much.
Sarah, thanks. I want to thank Nicola and the Goizueta Executive Education team for putting on the session. Back in the good old days of February 2020, when I used to get out and speak at global conferences and events, I often shared with teams that what got you here won't get you there. That's the title of one of my favorite books by a guy named Marshall Goldsmith, in which he built a pretty compelling case of that which has made you successful to date may or may not be what gets you to the evolution of your business. I can't think of COVID-19 as a stronger impetus for you to really think very differently. Hopefully rethink, reimagine, if not reinvent key pieces, key parts of your business. So in our time together, I want to share with you some insights in the work we're doing with global clients in doing just that. Very quickly, as Sarah was kind enough to mention, I've been blessed to write several books. I'm an advisor, I'm a researcher, I'm an educator, and I'm a coach. My passion is really innovative strategies to protect and really create new revenue streams. I don't know of an organization that can cut its way to growth. And one of the things that'd be very easy to do amidst this panic, amidst this time of uncertainty, is kind of bring it all back in. And we're going to shut down ideas, and we're going to shut down initiatives, and right? That's certainly one option to go. I just don't foresee really our situation changing anytime soon. So if your value proposition, and we're going to talk a lot about this, is predicated by physical proximity, or you delivering your value in person, you're going to have to think differently. So what we bring is really that strategic relationship insight and how to make that happen. I'm excited to be writing book number 11. It's called Curve Benders. We've got a great podcast where I'm planting some of those seeds. And of course, young family, dogs. I'm an old Eagle Scout. My son just got his Eagle Scout. And my wind therapy, my original social distancing is riding motorcycles. So I love to get out on the open road. My co-creator, if not collaborator on this initiative and this course and this project is Lynn Wilson. We've taught several courses at Goizueta Exec Ed. I'll even drag them to Dubai, where we presented in front of Sheikh this idea of co-creation. And this is a glimpse into what we call strategy visualization, right? So, and I'll talk more about this process in a second, but taking unnecessarily overcomplicated ideas and simplifying them with visual storytelling. We're also going to talk a lot today about agile alignment. This is what I've uncovered in 64 senior executive conversations in the last 6 weeks, and we'll talk more about this in a second. As Sarah mentioned, we are teaching a course June 9th and 10th at Exec Ed at Goizueta. Originally was intended to be in person. I'm actually more energized and excited about taking it online, and I'll show you some examples of why in a second. I want to make sure the session is interactive and engaging, so we're going to use a interactive polling tool. So if you could take out your smartphones, and this is a lot more fun if you play along, take out your smartphones, open up a browser for me if you could, and go to Menti, M-E-N-T-I, menti.com, and you see the code top of the page. Go ahead and put in that code for me. Again, menti.com, and that code 702006. And it's going to ask you, bingo, it's going to ask you what city are you joining us from. Let's just jump in with that first question. I'm going to make sure we got a great turnout for this session. So just type in, yeah, there you go, a lot of Atlanta. Oh, LA, beautiful. Thanks for getting up early with us. Sarasota, Florida, Memphis, Montville, Montreal, nice to have you. Seattle, oh, I'd really appreciate you guys getting up early, very cool. So Uruguay, beautiful. Marietta, Baltimore, Dubai, Ahlam wa sahlam, my friends over there. Lawrenceville, Woodstock, Dallas, this is great. Jump in. Want to make sure everybody jumps in. What city you're joining us from? And as you do that, Istanbul, beautiful city. Was there a couple of times last year. Beautiful place. So it's great to see people jumping in. So we're going to use this throughout the session. Let's go ahead and go to the next question. The next question I have for you is your realm of responsibilities. Are you in people, talent, HR, sales, marketing, revenues, finance, legal, IT, manufacturing, engineering? Is your predominant job digital innovation transformation, or you're a P&L executive? So let's get a sense of your realm of responsibilities. Looks like a lot of people, talent, HR. God bless you. What a challenging time for all of us, but particularly on the talent side, right? Sales, marketing, and other challenging space at the moment. And of course, digital innovation transformation. You're in many ways our heroes as well. So jump in with your realm responsibilities. And then I'm going to give you another second. I'm going to ask next question. Yeah, I want to make sure your vote gets counted. So jump in. Next question. Here we go. Next question. Your role and impact. Are you a frontline contributor? Do you manage a team? Do you lead an organization? Do you guide an industry? Or you govern on a board? So let's get a feel for who's here. Frontline contributor, manage a team, lead an organization, guide an industry, or govern on a board. Looks like a lot of team managers, great. Lead an organization, a lot of frontline contributors, few industry folks, and a couple board members. Thank you. Great. So beautiful. I think those are the initial questions I want to ask. And yep, 3. So we'll come back to that. You can now put that away and stop checking email. So as I mentioned, 64 executive conversations the last 6 weeks. Initially was a lot of shock to the supply and demand side, and candidly some panic. And the key was we've been through crisis before. We certainly didn't know the extent of this one. And I would submit to you that we're at the very beginning of this, certainly not at the tail end. Many executives I've spoken with believe this will peak in here in the States by June. A couple of months of it will subside because of the heat, and get ready for round 2 in the fall and winter because of the cold and flu season. And short of a vaccine, we're going to talk a lot about that. I believe any businesses, as I said earlier, that are predicated by physical proximity are going to continue to be challenged. Read restaurants, theaters. Sorry, but I thought bowling alleys were petri dishes before. I'm not that excited about going back to those. Flights, I was on the road 208 days last year. The middle seat, never really that exciting to begin with. I think, again, travel, events, conferences are gonna be a little challenging to kind of get us back together again. So we're actually developing for digital first and digital collaboration and interaction first, which we can always take back to interpersonal. But I think it's really important to understand and really be thinking about kind of your post or amid this crisis, amid this storm, new norms. And we're doing some great research. We've got some great data points on that. So let's go back to Menti. I want to ask Menti, sorry, this research I'm doing is coming up. So I want to know, what do you believe strategy visualization is? You were kind enough to join this session. We're going to talk about strategy visualization and agile alignment. Just type in, just for a few words, what do you believe strategy visualization is? Visual storytelling, pictures the way forward, roadmap, beautiful, love that. Telling a good story, hopefully a compelling, impactful story. Having a clear plan for the company, right? Absolutely necessary. Visual learner storytelling, calm, thank you. Have a clear mission. So I want to remind you, one of my favorite definitions of strategy I heard was from A.G. Lafley of Procter & Gamble fame, and he said the best possible choices for best possible outcomes. Let me say it again, best possible choices for best possible outcomes. The challenge is, I'm convinced, ever since we invented PowerPoint, we also invented death by PowerPoint. You sit there, you be quiet. I've got 178 slides I want to take you through in the next 30 minutes. Woohoo, has said no one ever. Yet we create unnecessarily complicated stories. But most people can't remember more than 3 things. Most people don't want to know everything you know. I got a call from a chief strategy officer of a global brand. Our board doesn't understand our strategy. I said, okay, I'm on a couple boards. Why don't you tell me what your strategy is? And I kid you not, it was like, ugh. I said, hold on. I think I'm pretty intelligent, but I don't need that nth level of detail, right? Whet their appetite, leave them wanting more, and those who want to know more will ask. So we help them go from a 3-hour board presentation by the management team to 45 minutes, including Q&A. And instead of a whole bunch of slides, 1 image. So we'll talk more about that. Thank you for those who've jumped in. Beautiful. Let's go to the next question. What do you then believe agile alignment is? So what do you believe agile alignment is? Again, just a couple words. Project management, somewhat good. Ability to adapt, absolutely. Speed and agility on the same page. Hallelujah. That's why I'm here. Okay, thanks for coming. Efficient change management. Yep. Quickly moving to a new state. Good. Flexibility, imperative. Company's focused path to success. Yep. Identifying best plan of attack. A lot of great ideas there. Great insights there, right? So most of you have heard of this company, Dyson. Yep, Sir James Dyson, inventor. I would submit their core capability and competency is engineering, if not reverse engineering. So is it any surprise that within 10 days, they saw the need for ventilators, they designed a new one, they've since flipped the switch on their manufacturing, started taking orders, and are shipping this gorgeous, elegant ventilator. Likewise, Bayer, the hockey company, figured out that we have a pretty strong core competency in protection and shields. Not sure how many people are going to be excited about buying hockey equipment at the moment. So why don't we pivot to PPEs? And this was back in mid-March. So instead of laying a whole bunch of people off, can we avoid shutting the factory down? Can we leverage our relationships in the medical field to understand what is it that they need? And the key is speed and agility. Somebody just said it in Mentee. If you're going to take 6 months and get a whole bunch of people together and analyze and conference calls and, right? Nothing against your perfect execution box. Don't misconstrue my comment. But agile alignment and COVID-19 unequivocally requires speed and agility. A mentor of mine always says, when you're 80% ready, move. The last 20%, right, in some ways won't matter. Now I'm actually coaching a lot of clients when you're 40% ready, when you're 60% ready, right? What do startups say? Startups actually have a saying: if you're not embarrassed by what you put out in the market, you've waited too long. So this is about speed and agility. How quickly can we get the key stakeholders on the same page and move? So what we're finding is this disconnect between great ideas and great execution, right? Confusing vision and direction. The culture inhibits innovation. Unbelievable resistance to change, right? Misaligned initiatives. How often are we asking for A and we're compensating B? How often are we asking for A and we're rewarding, if not elevating the status of those people that deliver B? Audiences can't understand, right? You'll get the nodding, especially virtually. It's really easy to get a whole bunch of people on these Zoom and GoToMeeting sessions and Microsoft Teams. Is everybody on the same page? Yup. And then you get 8 different answers, or 3 days later, nothing has still happened, changed yet. Unclear on our why. Why are we doing this? Why does this matter? Why should we do things differently, right? So really important amidst this crisis, as well as post this, to really think, how do we continue to clarify that vision, the path forward? How do we drive succinctness? Make no mistake about it. If we haven't learned anything else from Twitter, we should learn. There's incredible value in brevity. Can you please get to where you're going in much more succinct manner versus pontificating? Nobody's got time or patience for that. How do we create a succinct vision that can then cascade? How do we train, develop? You cannot put pause on your capability building. Just because we can't meet in person doesn't mean we can't continue to learn and grow. I love this. One of the executives I spoke with said he has a call, standing call every day at 4:45 with his senior leadership team. And he asks one question over 15 minutes. I think there's 8 or 10 of them on the call. What did we learn today? What did we learn, right? And how quickly can we capture that, cascade it with the rest of the team, and apply it the next day, right? So transforming the team, the organization, is going to heavily depend on that speed and agility, that alignment. I'm going to talk more about that. And of course, more compelling stories go a long way. This is really critical to keep in mind. Why are we doing this? Who are we trying to engage? You cannot engage everybody at the same level, in the same way. What is it that the outcome? What do we want them to think, feel, do differently? Which story do we want to tell? And how do we roll this out on a consistent basis? And as I said earlier, you know, there's no shortage of, if we're doing one of those eye tests, there's no shortage of this kind of stuff, right? Again, let me tell you all that we want to do. Meanwhile, nobody's listening to you because they're trying to read what's on the pages. And number two, I guarantee you 15 minutes later, they can't tell you what half the stuff was about without looking at their notes or the slides. So what if we took all that and we created something like this? Simple, clear, visual, elegant. Here's our strategic path forward. We're going to do 3 things: quality solutions, great place to work, effective communication. As I get older, the more allergic I become to vagueness. So don't give me motherhood and apple pie. I've yet to meet anybody that says we want crappy solutions, we want to be an awful place to work, and we're really not going to talk to anybody. So let's add some credibility components to each that really reinforce that's not just a mantra or a wall art. It's actually something we deeply believe in. And what's really fabulous about something like this is it starts to cascade through the organization. So these guys have now incorporated into their new hiring. They've incorporated into every conversation. Every leader opens up their rebranded sense. You see the color change, but you get the point. It becomes a rally cry. It becomes a common language that everybody can really embrace and get behind, right? And it starts in many ways with this idea of an empathy map. So if you don't really focus on the target audience you're trying to engage, you're trying to really benefit from, you know, these conversations, you're going to miss the boat. So when Hilton wants to attract more millennials, they figured out that millennials didn't want to come into their properties and see their parents, if not their grandparents, working there. So we worked with them in really creating a campaign to do a much better job in 15 schools that have hospitality programs. And when I first met them, I said, well, what do you do? Well, we go on site and we tell them how great we are. I kid you not, great brand, incredible company. but they would show up at these schools and tell these kids, we were the first brand that had color TVs. And we were the first brand that had room service. And I'm like, could you miss your audience any more, right, than that? Because they're not watching your TVs and they're not eating in your properties. So why don't we switch that and really focus on building relationships with them in their journey? So we created this campaign called Campus Conversations, and we brought Hilton along these kids' journey year after year, both on campus as well as on property. Recruiting of millennials up by 400%, right? Hilton wanted to demonstrate how they were turning military life through a transition period into Hilton careers. 10,000 veterans hired in less than 3 years. Intercontinental wanted to show hotel opening from initially signing a contract to become a franchisee, right? All the way through what that hotel opening process looks like. KPMG looking at the global risk footprint for their chief compliance, chief legal officers. Tupperware, engaging a very different global audience in both supporting as well as letting predominantly women, so cultivating confidence in women, letting them thrive. Also creating much more opportunities for engagement. How about this is a company called Oceaneering, where they do subsea floor infrastructure, and we worked with them on this idea of a project management center of excellence. Cox, this is their learning technology group. How do we really help our field technicians continue to add breadth and depth to their capabilities? So I'm going to let you read this quote for a second. Particularly amidst this COVID-19 time, few things as useless, if not outright dangerous, as the right answers to the wrong questions. I had Hal Gregerson of the MIT Leadership Center on our virtual fireside chat yesterday, and we talked about if you're stuck. What an incredibly powerful tool to get in this idea of inquiry and really ask a whole lot of questions. And this is where leaders need to balance the need to move with speed and agility with decision-making based on available information. There's no playbook for this. None of us have a crystal ball. So again, agile alignment is a lot about moving quickly to make those needed decisions. So if you've ever played, I grew up playing soccer. My daughter plays soccer, son plays lacrosse. If you've played these games or kids played or you've been around them, you realize that it's a very dynamic game. And most people will tell you that 90% of the game is played when you don't have the ball. And that's exactly the market we're in now. Where should you be? Where should your team be? What should you be doing if you don't have the ball, if you don't have control, to put yourselves and your organizations in the best possible chances to win and really benefit from it? So the Board of Innovation just came out with a fabulous report that says we're entering a low-touch economy, right? So beyond touching things on traveling, but also touching things on planes and touching doorknobs, we don't want to do any of that. I don't know if you've been to a grocery store lately or not, but people avoid you in aisles. And Costco, right, mandatory masks, and you've got to stay 6 feet away from other people. So how will you adapt to these new norms, to these much needed differences and changes in how we do what we do? Economists had a great article about 90% of the economy is going to be really its full capacity because of this distancing. So in many ways, we believe a lot of corporate strategies are going to become more and more obsolete. So agile alignment is really part of this broader agile portfolio that we're out talking to and working with clients on, where we sit on a daily briefing. So a lot of my leader clients, a lot of the executives I work with are having daily huddles with their teams, and we visualize kind of what they're focusing on and really help them create a visual story. I'm going to show you a couple examples in a second. That's agile alignment. When you roll this out, when you really analyze what's working, what's resonating, and we use sentiment analysis for that, and really course correct, that's agile execution. When you start to recognize patterns in what's really happening, what is our team doing, why is that happening in Seattle versus Chicago, you really start to identify our capabilities gap. We need to be more digital. We need to be more digitally collaborative. We don't have the tools, or we don't have the people who understand how to do that. And you start to optimize that efficiency, manner in which you do what you do. That's agile review. Huge opportunity. Bring it full circle. with really insight compression. We call that Agile learning. So this is our Agile portfolio. Right now, we have about 8 clients that are going through various stages of this in a 12-week sprint. So how quickly can we get ideas visualized? How quickly can we roll it out? Start to gather data, analyze it, really learn from it, identify what those labor gaps, what those capabilities gaps are, optimize it, and bring it back full circle. So let me give you a couple examples. I talked to a CEO who, these folks have about 2,000 folks that usually come into their buildings. He said, I'm looking out our window and there's about 10 cars in our parking deck. He said, we got to find a way to make people feel safe to come back to work again. So as we thought through, and this is as much systems thinking as it is visual storytelling, as we talked through it, said, what if there was a health tent at the entrance and you were tested, and if you're safe, right, you're healthy, go ahead and go to the parking deck. If you're sick, even with a cold, go back home. These guys have already started eliminating their lobby. No visitors. We don't need contractors. We don't need visitors coming in. And they're turning it into an airlock safe environment where you go through UV lighting and you're sanitized as you come in. They're deploying wearables. So one of my clients is Samsung, and they already have an app on their watch that will alert you if somebody's within 6 feet away. It tracks your core temp as well as your movement through the building, through the facility. They're deploying robots to constantly clean hallways and restrooms. They're replacing doorknobs, door handles, any of those with hands-free motion sensing, right? And they're moving everybody's desk and their dining areas at least 6 feet away. So he doesn't believe all 2,000 need to come back, but for those that need to physically be there, this is an example of just thinking through how do we help our employees feel safer about coming back. And by the way, people leave through an airlock as they leave again. So just one idea, and really now starting to think what is viable, what can we do sooner than later, but let's not wait because we do need those folks to feel comfortable coming back. I talked to a CEO of a restaurant group. So again, very quickly, middle of the page, their business is down by 90%. And he said, that's just not sustainable, right? So they're doing delivery and takeout at the moment, but we're piloting this in a couple of the restaurants where they're removing the seating and adding additional kitchen equipment, number one. Number two, he's got fabulous staff. So how do we reskill the wait staff to become more logistics, delivery, and operations oriented? Nobody's coming to their parking lot. So how do we reconfigure the parking lot to become more of a drive-through? Their chefs have taken their top 10 menu items and they've made meal kits out of it. On number 5, instead of just using social for marketing and promotions, they're actually created a new membership site where the chefs are teaching, hello, our teenagers. I'm dating myself. You remember taking home economics classes, right? And shop classes. We actually knew how to make spaghetti and meatballs and what a welder was and how to use a lathe, right? So these guys are actually teaching teenagers how to cook, how to make different things at home, as well as for those that want to create more family time around taking those meal kits. And everybody kind of jumps in and really works on the meal kits. And then it's really fascinating. They're collaborating with a couple of other restaurants to not only extend their hours, but they're really collaborating on their menu items, right? So a restaurant that predominantly served lunch and dinners and they were only open those hours are now extending their hours and they're serving with somebody else breakfast. And they're actually delivering these meals to healthcare, quality meals. This isn't quick serve or fast food, quality meals to healthcare heroes. So look at what's happening here. How do we get some of that revenue back? That's a huge challenge by a lot of organizations right now. How do we stabilize our revenues, get our revenues back? Number 2, saving their talent, reskilling, upskilling, redeploying their talent. Number 3, how do we leverage our core competencies, our capabilities, those chefs, those dishes, those restaurants that we love, and repackage, reimagine, redeliver that value, right? So most chefs are pretty good at, and they're very capable of creating meal kits. They may have just not been able to do it in-house to date. You know what? Now we've got the space, now we've got the time. Let's also find other ways along with a membership online to do this a little differently. Here's another one. A question of you. Have you had packages, Amazon and whatnot, get delivered to your house? Most people say yes. Have you had people come into your home for any kind of setup or service, think of HVAC or furniture delivery, any of those, most people say no. Our homes, our cars, our offices, our places of worship in many ways are sacred spaces. And we're uncomfortable letting people into those. I don't know where you've been. I don't know, what you have been up to. So this is for organizations. I'm doing a session for a group of field service executives, actually later today. Number one, you have to protect your own workforce, right? You got to get that talent back. They don't have to go out in full hazmat suits, but let's learn some things from the healthcare industry. How do we protect our workforce? Number two, you got to dramatically elevate your own disinfection of your infrastructure. You got to start likewise deploying, tech and wearables. Instead of the goofy surveys that people send out, what if we did a pre-session and a post-session web meeting? So very similar to this. Mr. Jones, is anybody at your home feeling under the weather? And by the way, our folks are going to be in, protective gear. Don't be alarmed. Probably a good idea for you to take your pets and kids away for the time we're there, but we're going to be there for 15 minutes. We're going to set up. We're going to leave. Last but not least, share those learnings with your audiences, right? And really help future deliveries feel comfortable. Let me show you a video. Let me show you what we've done in other homes, and really give people that comfort level that you're taking all necessary precautions and you actually are delivering assurance. I won't go into this one too much, but we did this for the National Association of Dental Labs. These are the people that make your crowns and dentures. As you can imagine, as elective surgeries have dropped off about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, their business just fell off a cliff, right? Nobody's going into these, dental offices. So we talked about, co-creation in a top left corner. So the manufacturers, the dental practices, the dentists themselves and the labs have to become much more, instead of silos, much more symbiotic, much more collaborative with the patient at the center. And I believe most industries, and we're doing a lot of work around this, need both a defensive strategy, what can we do quickly, but also an offensive strategy. In their case, how do we help patients come back to the office? Maybe they check in their cars instead of coming into a lobby. Certainly, again, protecting our staff, but also how do we go to them? How do we really take our values? So telemedicine, teledentistry, how do we take, the other day, I got to tell you, our vet, a Sprinter van pulls up in our driveway. They open the door. They've retrofitted back of the Sprinter van with a table. They take our dogs, sedate them, brush their teeth, brush them, give them the medication they need, all in our driveway, all in about half an hour, 45 minutes, right? And they moved on to the next appointment. So you got to find ways to take that value. Is it an investment? Absolutely. But if I'm uncomfortable going to my vet, I still need those services. So how can we create opportunities to go to where our audience is? Let's go back to Menti again real quick. Let's go back to Menti. So I have the next question of you. How often are you thinking about some of these things? Navigating the current storm, rethinking your business model, post-crisis recovery, and keeping my job, right? So how often are you thinking about, and just move those levers over, and at the bottom you can just hit submit. So that's cool. Look at this, right? And it will move as different people jump in, right? Navigating the current storm, rightfully so. We're all in the midst of it. Rethinking our business model, that takes real courage, right? Because it's been working, right? Why should we do anything differently? Post-crisis recovery. Most executives I've spoken with see it other side of this. Nobody knows when, but they're excited about it. And what I'm kind of coaching them to think about is, instead of an event, beginning, middle, and end, what if this was to stay with us for the next 12 to 18 months? Short of a vaccine, right? What has to happen for us to begin, again, think differently about how we engage others? So look at that. Navigating the current storm, rightfully so, most folks. Then post-crisis recovery. I'm energized. I'm excited about that. Rethinking our business model, great. Keeping my job, less so, right? So beautiful on that, good. So what if we took systems thinking? I mentioned this earlier. If you don't know much about systems thinking, Pat Noonan at Emory and Ben Kaczynski, again, one of my previous professors, Steve Walden, a lot of these guys have mentioned and talk about systems thinking. It's incredibly powerful. And it's just, the lens which we look at is the interconnected, the emergence of opportunities, wholeness, synthesizing kind of what's happening, and then really the relationships between disparate parts. What if we brought systems thinking with design thinking? Again, Scott Sanchez in Exec Ed teaches a fabulous course on design thinking, but this idea of empathizing with that audience, less about you, and I'm saying this respectfully, you should never be the hero of the story. You're the guide, right? Ideation, how do we quickly, I cannot reiterate, quickly ideate, prototype something, and then get it out in the market? What if we combine systems thinking, design thinking, and this idea of continuous improvement, specifically visual process innovation of our current state, future state? How do we validate some assumptions? How do we quickly prototype and activate something? How do we embed it? And that's really where strategy visualization comes from. So we talk a lot about create things that are simple to understand for the right audience, things that are easy, visual metaphors that people can absolutely understand, and things that are fast, things that people can act on. Donald Miller of the Story brand fame is famous for saying, if you confuse, you lose. I'm going to add to that. If you confuse, you can't get buy, if not buy in. And make no mistake about it, most of us need buy-in from others of here's where we're going, here's how we're going to get there. So what if you simplified that? What if you made it visual and you made it a lot easier for people to understand? Because if you make me read a whole bunch of stuff, I'm going to disengage and you're going to lose me at hello. So why don't we make this visual? Why don't we make it simpler? Why don't we make it cleaner? So let's go back to Menti. Again, I want to go back to Menti and ask you this time, what are the 3 barriers to innovation where you work? And again, I can't see your individual votes, by the way. So, and this is completely anonymous. So is it risk avoidance? Is it zero-sum thinking? If we win, somebody's got to lose. Is it tradition and culture? Is it the leadership? Is it internal systems and structures? Staffing, recruiting process, organizational silos, or success? Somebody said success. Yeah. People that have done really well, they become complacent, right? And the question becomes, why should we do anything different, right? So look at this: organizational silos, internal systems and structures, followed by leadership, right? You want to know what agile leadership is? Yeah, the ability to quickly see what's happening in the market and not be arrogant enough to listen to different, potentially contradicting voices and different perspectives that are going to help you think and think differently, right? So look at that: organizational silos, internal systems and structures. Didn't we install all that technology and all those processes to become more efficient? Yet they've become crutches. They've become inhibitors of us thinking and doing things differently. That's why a lot of our 12-week innovation sprints that we're doing are away from the corporate structure and corporate governance. And I don't need a battalion. We take a SEAL Team 6 to go tackle those. So thanks for jumping. I'll keep that up there. So my collaborator on this is Lynn Wilson, and one of the things you do is I know this will be hard to believe, but you do need a break from me. So Lynn jumps in, and in our courses, we've actually had participants draw. Well, guess what? With the virtual one, we actually have a digital whiteboard, and Lynn comes on, and participants actually draw, and we share those drawings in this virtual whiteboard, and it becomes really enabling, really freeing, that you're not being judged. Nobody's asking you to draw the Mona Lisa, right? This is quickly, can I quickly sketch some ideas and get buy-in on here's where we are, here's where we're going, here's how we're going to get there. That's a good friend, Charlie, who works for a very large organization that is just bogged down with text. Here's 75 pages I need you to read by tomorrow. And nobody's reading the damn things. Right? So visual is a really easier way to just convey, here's where we're going, here's how I think we should get there, here's why this thing matters, right? So it's just a really good way to do that. And Lynn is masterful at walking people through why and how he thinks visually the way he does. So as I said in the class, the other really cool thing is we actually work in small groups. So we use Zoom's breakout room feature, and you actually go into these rooms, and using the virtual whiteboard, you start to work on projects together. And it's amazing how if you take a step back of your own situation and help somebody else, it's amazing how often the light bulb goes off. Well, I'm suggesting it to others. Why aren't we doing that? So people that have attended our previous courses have really benefited from and talked about, it was fabulous to talk about, you know, how Chick-fil-A could deliver their own food, or how we've got to think very differently in terms of our manufacturing and service business, or we've got to engage our cable audience very differently because they're cutting the cable, they're cutting the cord, they're not watching cable, but they want our internet access, right? So those have always been a lot of fun. So in the upcoming class, and then I really want to give us some time for Q&A, we're going to do things a little differently. Number one, we're going to go 8 to 5 for 2 full days. I actually want you disengaged from, respectfully, all the minutia that you got going on day in and day out, to be present, to be with us. I promise you the emails will be there, and I get about 200 to 300 of them a day. So we want to immerse you in that experience. We're going to do a pre-session. Let's get the introductions, let's get overview, let's get format out of the way. So June 2nd, a week before, at noon Eastern. By the way, we record all this, and we're going to give you access to that library. So we've created these virtual sprints. So I'm going to introduce a concept. We're actually going to go into small breakout rooms, virtual breakout rooms, and they're designated breaks. I don't know about you. I can't sit still. I know you're shocked. I can't sit still for long, and nobody's going to want to look at a camera and look at a screen for 2 days straight. So we actually take breaks, 15 minutes, get away from the camera. We're going to pause the recording. You're not going to miss anything. Go buy a break, get a drink, you know. So stretch and then come back refreshed. 7:30 to 8, we've been doing these coffee and check-in. So I'll be there early, and it's a good chance to grab a cup of coffee and ask questions. Same thing, lunchtime, noon to 1, we'll take a lunch break. Lynn and I are available for extra help if you have questions, if you want to work on something yourself. And then, of course, end of the day, listen, by end of the day, we all deserve a cocktail. Some of us deserve one right around 10 a.m., but that's just me. So there's cocktails and questions end of the day. And then the other thing I care about is not just, I know this stuff, right? So it's less about me sharing it with you, more about what resonated with you. And what are you going to go do to apply some of this stuff? So 2 weeks after the class, we'll set up a post-session revisit on what did you take away, what have you done with it? Those are the 2 questions that I care about. What did you take away? What have you done with it? So again, a little different, much more hands-on. This is, no, not the subway map in New York City. This is actually my own tech stack. So somebody asked me, what are all the different tools that you use and what you do and how you do it? And what I want to do is, and we're bringing that to the class. So as I said, we use a virtual whiteboard where we do dot voting, where we talk about storytelling in crisis. And those exercises, you'll get your own working space. And those exercises that Lynn will instruct us through, you'll actually draw that in that space. So it's a really cool thing we've been using. By the way, for those of you who have teenagers, I hired my own teenage kid. And we've researched 75 digital collaboration tools. I wrote a blog about it, and this is one of them that we found really, really useful. So we can't put this class on if we don't get folks to join us. So here's a couple bonuses. If you sign up by next Friday, May 15th, this is all a virtual class, so my friends from Dubai and Istanbul can also join us. I need you to email Sarah Gill, lovely lady. Email Sarah, you'll get a signed copy of the Co-Create book. As long as you don't put it on eBay, we'll stay friends, right? So, but I'll send you a signed copy. This is my latest book, Co-Create. First 10 to sign up, you'll get a 30-minute one-on-one session with Lynn and I, and we'll talk about your specific challenge and what you need to visually storytell around. And then we're also, so this is what that looks like. We'll schedule a session and go through. You tell us what you're trying to do, and we'll give you some one-on-one feedback. First 20 to sign up, we're creating a digital storytelling tool that's coming this summer. So what Lynn teaches us how to do, we're taking all this digital. So imagine instead of a book to flip through of how did I do that? We're actually taking all this digital, and you can use that in a digital white space to create your own stories, your own challenges with your own colleagues. So first 20 to sign up, you're going to get early access to this tool. So I've got, I think I have a serious question. I have a very serious question. Was this fun? Did you have fun? If not, I'm leaving. It's over between us. I'm done with you, right? So if you're having fun, jump in with that. Thank you for that. Very cool. And then I have two final questions I want to ask. So jump in with that one. Looks like great. Give me a takeaway. I shared a lot at a pretty fast clip. And again, I know this was come as a shock to you, but I'm a content presenter. I present a lot of ideas. I want to keep it simple. Absolutely. I want to see what resonated with you. So just jump in. Go fast or die. Absolutely. Visuals, innovation is key for success. I would say your lifeline. Learn more about class and cost. Yes. We need Sarah Gill. Email Sarah. There are tools to help move quickly. Don't wait for perfection. Yeah, perfection is actually the enemy of progress. Story through visuals. Yes. Shorthand. Love it. Great insights. Idea popping. Yes. Know your audience. Use better visuals. Yes. Tools and need to move. I can't reiterate that enough. Speed and agility. Pictures shout louder than words any day of the week and twice on Sundays. How on earth can I make this work in our business? Come and we'll go through that together. The Dyson example, yeah, it's amazing. 10 days to design and deploy a new ventilator, right? 12-week cycle around adaptability. Yes. Don't wait for the end. This is the new norm. Yes. I'm a hugger. If I could see you, if we're together, I would hug you, right? Or we do the elbow thing. So these are very cool. Yes, this was awesome experience. Look forward to applying these. Yes, perfect. So last question. We're in emoji world. Which emoji represents how you feel about the session? Not much value. Got distracted. All good. Really enjoyed it. I can put to use. So give us an emoji. Thank you. Those are kind. That's very kind of you guys. So I'm going to finally wrap up with, it's one of my favorite quotes. The illiterate of the 21st century won't be those who can't read or write. It'll be those who cannot learn or they refuse to. That's probably even a better one. They refuse to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Think of COVID-19 as an opportunity to learn, unlearn, and relearn. What do you have to? You know you better than anybody else knows you. If you can't be candid with yourself, who can you be candid with? This is an opportunity to learn, unlearn those sacred cows that you've been doing them the same way for a whole bunch of years, and what can you relearn? So Len and I, we have fun. It's 2 days, June 9th and 10th. Come spend a couple of days with us, disengage from, and I'm saying this respectfully, all the minutiae you got going on to really immerse yourself in this idea of strategy visualization and agile alignment. Sarah Gill is your best resource to reach out to. She can get you more information. Will the workshop be relevant for nonprofits, Sandra? Absolutely. We're going to actually use some examples, and when you come, you can actually work on your own project around your nonprofit. So we're going to talk about revenue sources for nonprofits, how do we engage membership and member organizations. So let me open it up, Sarah and company, let me open it up to questions. And if you could please jump in. Sandra Kruger, fantastic, glad you were here. Jump in with your questions and let me know what questions I can answer for you in our last few minutes together.
We do have a question, a comment and a question that came in. And it states, it's great to see how organizations can think differently utilizing Agile alignment. How can I implement Agile alignment in my organization to address challenges we're facing right now?
Yep. So COVID-19 is forcing everybody to come down from just thinking macro to micro. So Agile alignment works really well if you take a piece of your business. Let's talk about, we're sitting in a lot of daily huddles, daily leadership meetings, and those are at 7 and 8 a.m.s, right? And within an hour, so take a piece of your business, quickly prioritize, what is it that we want to communicate? Unfortunately, most people who communicate, it's all about them. Let me tell you how great we are. As respectfully as I can say it, nobody cares. So create something for the consumer of that information, not you, the producer of it. So if I'm trying to reach my sales team, if I'm trying to reach an operations team, if I'm trying to reach a project team, what do they need to know to do what I'm after? What do they need? What's the outcome we're after? What do they need? Quickly visualize that, create, you saw steps, processes, focal points, no more than 3 to 5, 6 most. We did one for a client, it was 8 steps, and it can quickly become overwhelming. So how do I visually get that across and give them sound bites, give them talking points, give them priority focal points, and then you got to come back to really look at the signals you sent, were these really the signals that were received. So again, go back and look at, we talk about agile alignment, it's moving with speed. So again, take a piece of your business, quickly, can we visualize something, communicate that out with a story, then come back and really find out what resonated, what they heard, and what they acted on. I saw a fabulous report from Cornell that said, if you want anything to be remembered and repeated, people have to see it 7 times. 7 times if you want it remembered and repeated. So that doesn't mean be repetitive. It means reinforce. So a lot of our clients are taking the agile alignment visuals that we create and they reinforce that several times throughout the day or the week of, listen, don't lose sight of the 3 to 5 things we're focused on. Don't lose sight of those 3, 4 things you said you needed to get this done. So that's an opportunity to move quickly and reinforce that. So thank you for that. Do you have another question, either Christine or Keisha?
Yeah, thank you, David. Will this course be relevant for fundraisers or best for corporate management?
No, the answer is yes, relevant to fundraisers. What I care about is get succinct about the outcome you're after. One of the things I presented was the 3 things. Tell me your why, right? Who's the audience, right? You're trying to engage. If those are the philanthropists that you want funding from, what do you want them to think, feel, do differently? What story do we want to tell, and how will you roll it out? Those are the 5 things we always look at. But it's critical in the middle: audience, outcome, story. So come to the class and we'll build that around that which you need.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks. Go ahead, Keisha.
I'm sorry, Tiffany. There was another last minute question that just came through. How do you influence an organization upward to be more agile, or do you just focus on your area of responsibility and hope that success can help drive the entire organization?
Yeah, as respectfully as I can say it, it's very difficult to fight City Hall. And I'm amazed of how many small minds squash big ideas, right? So I last Christmas, my business slows down right around 4th of July traditionally, and right around Christmas. 4th of July, people are in their vacation mindset. Christmas, same thing, holidays. So last Christmas, I went back and analyzed the last 100 client engagements we've done. Those that dramatically set themselves apart from their competitive peers versus those that did okay, one common thread. Any guesses? Yeah, visionary leaders. So what I found out is people who defend the status quo, I can't help. There's a lot of other people that can help them. That's not me. That's not what I want to spend my time, effort, cycles chasing. Those who conversely want to challenge the status quo, and let's use especially this time to think and lead differently, are the ones that are really going to benefit from agile alignment. So if you're trying to convince higher in the organization that we should do things differently, I'm trying to tell you, you're wasting your time. Because if they don't get it by now, they're never going to get it. So focus on your own environment, make differences, create results. At some point, those who get it, the light bulb's going to go off to say, that's interesting. I wonder how John and those guys are doing it. And that's how you get buy-in. But think globally, act locally is another way to say that. Nikki wants to know, what systems do I use to create my visuals? Nikki, you're going to have to come to the class. I can't give away all my secrets like this. No, joking aside, you saw my tech stack. I use Canva. We use Miro. I use later.com. So there's a handful of tools that we use for different reasons. And then, as I said, we're building our own digital visual storytelling based on Lynn's capabilities. This is an example where we're going to do a booklet because it gives you really cool ways of how to do this. And I said, let's build for digital first. And that's just a lot smarter way to go moving forward. Sandra, fantastic. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thanks, David. We greatly appreciate you. And we want to appreciate all of our participants who joined us today on behalf of David Noor and Emory Executive Education. Once again, thank you for joining us with the Business Over Breakfast webinar series. As David has mentioned, he's not going anywhere. So if you all want more of this topic, you want more of David, we are hosting our strategy visualization course on June 9th through 10th. Information about the course and how to register is located in the chat box. Of course, as David mentioned, you can reach out to my wonderful colleague, Sarah Gill, if you have any additional questions about that course. We are going to be continuing the Business Over Breakfast webinar series May 14th through 28th. Again, additional information and registration on that particular series is also located in the chat box as well. Our next topic is going to be problem solving and teamwork in a virtual world with Emory faculty members, Patrick Noonan and Lynn Siegel. And last but not least, a copy of this recording is going to be available on our LinkedIn page later on today. So if you'd like to review this information again, please check out our LinkedIn page at Emory Executive Education. And last but certainly not least, a survey is going to pop up on your screens momentarily. We ask that you take about 1 to 2 minutes to give us some feedback on today's webinar. And again, we look forward to seeing you all next Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern for our next Business Over Breakfast topic. David, I'm going to turn it over to you to close us out.
I'm going to go back to the way I started this. One of my favorite books by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I saw a great meme you're going to get a chuckle out of. What's been the biggest contributor to your digital transformation? Your CEO, your CTO, or COVID-19? Use this as an impetus. Use this storm as an impetus to rethink, reimagine, reinvigorate, re-energize, if not reinvent, key parts of your business. Thanks for joining us. Hope this was of value to you. Hope you'll come and join us for the June 9th and 10th course. Email Sarah Gill so they'll continue to like me and come join us. It'll be fun.